Delly, how we feeling, buddy? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I wish I was able to do some beaching in Destin, but I was unfortunately holed up for 4 days in a cold hotel convention in room and lobby. So, but at least, but there are worse places to be in a convention hotel room than Destin. So I'll take that.
I agree. And Delly, I'd imagine that everybody was paying attention and wanted more drama from Fisher and Saban, and it looks as if the Southeastern Conference has put the cap on that, and you will not hear any more back and forth between the two former coworkers. But what did you take away from that storyline after being around those guys for a couple of days down at the beach?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the SEC probably made it known that it's in Greg Sankey, commissioner, honestly just said it publicly to us in one of his media availabilities. He said that he addressed with coaches and athletic directors the fact that they don't need to go out on silo, as he put it, to go out on your own and talk to the press. And so I think he kind of made it known not to do that. And so what happened is that all the drama unfolded the week before SEC meetings, and so SEC meetings really were kind of boring, a little bit on the boring side, and the fact that they didn't do, as you mentioned, didn't approve a scheduling model, made it even more boring. But so yeah, all the action kind of happened a week before. We were joking as writers down there that we wish that Nick Saban had waited and done his little thing in Destin.
Delly, you usually do your best work around the bar, gathering relationships and stories. Did you get any idea from coaches, ADs, on where the majority sits on this scheduling debate, whether or not it will be an 8 or 9 game schedule? Do you have a feeling on where the majority of the conference is swayed?
I think the problem is there's not really a majority right now, and that's why they really didn't take a vote, or at least they didn't come to a decision. They may have taken some kind of straw vote, but I think there's not a majority, or not a heavy majority, and that's kind of at issue. I think going in, and we were a story probably a couple weeks ago ahead of the Destin meetings about the situation. Going in, I think that it was, fairly split, but I think a lot of people that were in support of 8 games, they're obviously trying to decide between 8 and 9 games. And I think those in support of 8 games knew that probably they were going to have to come around, that it was going to be 9 eventually, like at some point at the end of the summer or the fall. I think after the meetings, that has changed.
Wow.
I think those in support of an 8-game schedule have actually gotten more support for that 8-game schedule. And part of that is because of the uncertainty around the college football playoff. I think a lot of teams don't want to play an extra SEC game if you don't know that the college football playoff is going to expand. I mean, everybody thinks it will eventually expand, but you don't know that. And even if it does expand, it's not expanding until 2026. So you'll have this new schedule, whatever it is, for at least 1 year while you have a 14 playoff. And that means adding an extra SEC game could be torpedoing an SEC team's chance of making the playoff. And so I think that's a big reason why some of those in support of 8 have gotten maybe some of those that were supporting 9 entering the week to kind of switch sides, so to speak. But not enough of them did it for them to make any kind of decision in Destin. So it does sound like they're still fairly split.
Wow. From a standpoint of speaking with Greg Sankey, Ross, it feels like over the last year and a half he has become the most powerful person in collegiate athletics. Do you get a feel on how his point of view right now is for college sports and the SEC in particular? What was your biggest takeaway from hearing from Sankey?
Yeah, I think when university presidents arrived to Destin. Most of them arrived on Wednesday and then met with the athletic directors in a big joint session on Thursday. It's kind of a big meeting for 2 or 3 hours in Destin on Thursday afternoon. And I think one of the big things that came up was not the scheduling stuff, but the future of college sports. Yeah. And I think that was discussed. There were some heavy items, as some ADs and Greg Sankey mentioned. There were some real heavy items discussed during that. And I think those included athlete employment, what to do about NIL, what to do about making athletes employees and trying to pay them directly. Is it possible? I mean, I think, revenue sharing, a lot of things were discussed and thrown against the wall. However, I don't think a lot of things were decided upon. And I don't know that anything they discussed really stuck on the wall. In fact, I was talking to Greg Sankey after the news conference on Friday, going through some of the things they discussed in that meeting. And he kind of, he was going through all the potential solutions for college sports and NIL and all that. And he kind of said, no solution really stuck on the wall. And that's the problem, is they can't, there's a problem, there's an issue with each solution when you go kind of down the list. And so they will keep on talking about it. And I think through the summer, by the end of the summer, you would think that they will have some kind of resolution on what to do in the transformation committee, which Greg Sankey is chairing, the NCAA transformation committee. So I think they'll probably come up with some stuff too, and some guidance on NIL and how to handle it and all. But we're definitely in the middle of a very changing time in college sports, and something that you could see some fairly radical suggestions eventually come out, and we all have to kind of be prepared for them. They're going to probably make a lot of people uncomfortable, like paying athletes directly. But we know now that's what's happening with NIL at a lot of places. And so why not regulate it in some way with athlete pay from the school or employee status? Those are things that are being discussed.
Delly, I think one of the bullet points that people aren't paying a lot of attention to, but is a major storyline of what the future will be, especially in the Southeastern Conference and around college football, is television revenue. You're adding Texas and Oklahoma to the conference, which is going to bring 2 more powerful brands, but a ton of television sets. What is the thought on what this revenue is going to look like? You mentioned that the paying the players. A lot of that salary that would be paid out, if that was agreed upon, would probably come from this resource. Yeah.
I mean, every school will probably immediately get a 30% raise upon their yearly media rights, revenue just cut, probably 30, maybe 50% of a raise. So a lot of that money, will. If they're going to pay athletes, football players, basketball, whatever, I mean, a lot of it would come out of that. But I did fail to mention when we were talking about scheduling, I said the one reason that the 8-game model got a little bit more support during meetings is because of the uncertain future of the CFP. The other reason is adding a additional ninth conference game would not generate more revenue from the TV deal. You'd have to have ESPN come back to the table, and ESPN doesn't really have to come back to the table if it doesn't want to come back to the table. And as a university president, SEC university president told me in Destin, I wouldn't come back to the table if I were ESPN. I mean, why would you? You get more inventory for a lower price. So that's one of the sticking points as well in all of that, is that, when Texas and OU come in, they will get a prorated kind of share of the SEC media rights deal. So if everybody right now under the deal, if everybody gets $60 million a year, Texas and Oklahoma will as well get $60 million a year when they come in the league. So the package does increase, but it doesn't have anything in there about additional inventory, another conference game happening, and or producing more revenue. So that is definitely an issue.
How much of a presence did Texas and Oklahoma have last week?
Well, nothing. They were not there. They're not voting members yet, and they won't be until they actually officially join the league right now in the fall or July 2025. It could happen a year early. That's a possibility. It probably is not going to happen any more than a year early. It'll happen in 24, 25. So that's when they get full voting membership. But they kind of made their stances known at a meeting earlier this fall with athletic directors and actually in New Orleans, where they stand, I think, on a lot of issues. But they did not have representation there last week.
How did Brian Kelly do, or not do, but what did you make of Brian Kelly's first appearance at this event?
Yeah, he one thing about Brian Kelly is he's really thoughtful on a lot of the issues facing college sports. You have a lot of coaches who don't want anything to do with discussing issues and legislation and all that stuff, but Brian Kelly seems pretty comfortable discussing all that, and certainly offered some interesting views on that type of thing. Yeah, I think he was only, as I recall, he was only one of two coaches at the reception. Every Tuesday night they do a reception out on the beach. Media, everybody pretty much at the event is invited. It's just a cocktail reception with some hors d'oeuvres. And normally coaches stay away from that kind of thing, but Brian Kelly was there along with Nick Saban. He was the only two coaches there. So don't read in that too much. Don't get too excited.
So you're saying LSU's back? Billy Ivy asks, and I would ask too. Hashtag Ask Dellenger. Did you get an idea of LSU's point of view? Did they want an 8 or 9 game schedule, or do you know on that?
Oh, they're definitely on the 9 game schedule, and I'll say, the top half of the SEC wants a 9 game schedule, and the bottom half basically wants an 8 game schedule. That's kind of how it's split, and the SEC is very split on revenue generating lines and athletic success lines, and the historic athletic success, and LSU certainly in the top half of the league in both of those things, and they are very much for a 9 game schedule, which would include 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotational. You'd play everybody in both of the models. You'd play everybody twice in a 4-year span, home and away. The 8 game model is 1 permanent opponent, 7 rotational. 9 game is 3 permanents, 6 rotational. So a big drawback of the 8 game, obviously, is secondary rivalries you would not preserve.
I saw that crawfish that you were being served in Washington, D.C. Hopefully they did not dust those crawfish and they were properly seasoned.
Hey, I boiled the crawfish, so there was no damn dusting going on.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy.
I had them flown up from Lafayette live. They arrived live on dry ice, and I boiled them up. They were 30 pounds, and we had about 10, 15 people over, most who did not understand how to pick crawfish. So we did get through the sack, but I had to eat 10 pounds myself, I think.
Beautiful.
Which is okay.
Yes, which I'm sure you aced that test. It's great to hear from you, man. Glad to see you talking and writing about college football again. We'll talk again soon.
All right, man. See y'all.
All right, man. There is Ross Dellenger checking in.